Tena koutou katoa. Hello everyone. My name is Asma Rashidi and I'm a PhD candidate at Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. And I'm here today offer policymakers' perspective on this conversation and kind of take you into this important topic of integrating cultural and economic dimensions in Maori forestry. For your information, Maori people are the indigenous people of Aotearoa, New Zealand, with having their unique perspective and knowledge about environmental stewardship. I would like to begin my presentation with a karakia, a traditional Maori way of opening with intention and respect. E tane e te kaitia ki o te waonui, arahina matou ki te huarahi tika. Hei te aki, hei manaki I tōu au, kia ora tēnā here, kia ora te whenua, kia ora nā uri whakatupu, haumi e, hui e, tae ki e. The world we live in is getting more complicated every day, ecologically, socially, and economically. My research comes from a very simple desire that I have to try and make sense of these challenges and find better ways to move forward. One thing that's become really clear to me is how critical biodiversity is in this topic. It's at the heart of everything we depends on. Our food, clean water, and even energy security. But there is the hard truth. Biodiversity is collapsing worldwide and it's happening faster than we ever imagined that. Here in New Zealand, it's especially worrying. We've got one of the highest rates of biodiversity loss in the world, and the government constantly acknowledges that in their reports. But when we look at the Maori worldview, we see something really powerful. It's all about balance and interconnected system where everything works together. If one part of the system is thrown off, the whole system, including humans who live in and depends on the system, will suffer. This perspective gives us something really important to think about. It's not just about solving one problem or another. It's about stepping back and seeing the bigger picture and learning how to bring the system back into balance. This stark reality forces us to think more and ask some big questions. Why are we facing such devastating biodiversity loss? And how can we continue to produce while tackling this crisis? To answer the first part of this question, we need to take a closer look at New Zealand's forestry history and current practices. Back in the early 20th century, New Zealand's government just realized how unique and important its native forests were. By that time, native forest clearance had reached alarming levels. So in 1913, the Forest Act was introduced to protect these forests. With this shift, attention turned to radiata pine, a fast-growing species which has been innovated specially for the New Zealand environment using California natives. Its ability to adapt, its high timber yield, and the fact that it grows even faster in New Zealand made it the backbone of country's forestry industry. So today, forests cover around 32% of New Zealand's land, with radiata pine plantations making up 8% and native forests accounting for 24%. Here's an interesting fact. According to the New Zealand Forest Owner Association, a significant portion of these these radiata pine plantations is on Maori-owned land. But here's the challenge. Because of colonial era systems and restrictive regulations, many Maori landowners face barriers to managing these forests in ways that align with their traditional practices, which focus on biodiversity and cultural values. Meanwhile, native forests, while covering a larger area and playing a vital role in biodiversity and conservation, aren't part of New Zealand's economic forestry operations. Instead, The country relies heavily on radiata pine plantations. This reliance drives the economic success of the forestry sector, of course, but it also comes at the cost because monoculture practices have significant environmental consequences. Planting large areas of radiata pine has serious downsides, such as the environmental disaster caused by harvesting radiata pine on lands exposed to extreme weather, which results in massive landslips and the erosion of native forest soil ecosystems. This soil flows into rivers, streams, and the sea, contributing to the rapid loss of marine biodiversity. Similarly, endemic trees and ecosystems, which evolved without competition on the Pacific islands of New Zealand, are being overtaken by highly competitive wilding pine crops. There is also a lack of infrastructure, research, and funding for native forest management. These conditions contribute to the explosion of non native pests and diseases, as well as the absence of native flora and fauna needed to provide environmental resilience. Of grave concern to Maori foresters is the lack of resources to transition radiata pine plantations and pastures to permanent forests, which are now understood to be more appropriate for some land, especially under the pressure of climate change. Policies like New Zealand's emission trading scheme introduced in 2008 have added economic values to these forests, especially for Maori, but they have also made these forests more vulnerable to risk, highlighting the need for better forestry management. Here is an example. I've included a direct quote from the Climate Change Forestry Regulation 2022 by the New Zealand Parliament. It says a newly planted native forest absorbs about 40 tons of CO2 per hectare over 10 years, while a radiata pine forest absorbs 5 to 10 times more in the same period. On the surface level, this sounds like a win for, radiata pine, but there is a catch. The carbon stored in these trees is eventually released back into the environment because of our current practices, which we are now understanding to be increasingly unsustainable under climate change conditions. This brings us to a key point. The economic benefits we are gaining often come at the cost of the environment, but here is the thing. Biodiversity loss isn't just a challenge, it's an opportunity. An opportunity to shift towards more sustainable production and innovative forestry practices. New Zealand needs to seize this opportunity by aligning its forestry supply chains with sustainability focused platforms. And this isn't just about ticking boxes for compliances. It's about fundamentally rethinking how we approach forestry. The recently released National Maori Forestry Vision and Strategy, for example, offers incredible insights into climate resilient practices. It's not just about producing wood. It's about producing in a way that meets much higher standards of sustainability. To explore this integration of cultural and economic dimensions, my research uses a dual methodological framework: decolonizing methodology and accumulation by restoration. The decolonizing methodology, articulated by Linda Tuhiwai Smith, emphasizes community engagement, interconnectedness, and dismantling colonial power imbalances. It empowers indigenous communities and ensures that outcomes are culturally sensitive and equitable. In parallel, David Harvey's accumulation by restoration framework critiques the commodification of natural processes, and it shows how capitalist systems transform restoration efforts like carbon sequestration or biodiversity offsets into marketable assets, often at the expense of marginalized communities. So I believe together these frameworks provide a transformative lens to analyze Maori forestry, offering tools to question assumptions and decenter decolonizing perspectives and also address systematic inequalities. So, through this methodology, I analyzed two Maori forestry case studies, Lake Taupo Forest Trust and Ngatiporo Forest. These case studies illustrate distinct but interconnected challenges, from economic vulnerabilities tied to monoculture models to regulatory constraints shaped by colonial legacies. They show how Maori forestry can balance cultural values, economic sustainability, and environmental resilience, offering critical insights for reimagining forestry practices in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Lake Taupo Forest Trust is one of New Zealand's largest Maori led forestry initiatives. For years, it has relied heavily on monoculture pine plantations, which have brought significant financial returns, especially through participation in the emission trading scheme. In 2020 alone, the trust earned almost $12 million in revenue from selling carbon credits. And by 2024, the trust held New Zealand units valued at around $90 million, which is impressive. However, this success comes with significant challenges. Monoculture plantations exposed the trust to considerable risks. For example, in 2023, Cyclone Gabrielle caused devastating damage. Over 4,200 hectares of forests were affected, and even worse, the community and outside of the forest also damages because of unsustainable forestry practices. And now, after 2 years, the region has not fully recovered. This disrupted operation and also showed how vulnerable these monocultural systems are to extreme weather events. On top of that, pine plantations don't align with Maori values like kaitiakitanga, which means guardianship of the land, and limits their ability to integrate biodiversity into their operations. Ngatipuru Forestry came under Maori ownership around 2012 through a treaty settlement. Treaty settlements in New Zealand are, agreement between Maori and the Crown to address past breaches of the 1840 Treaty of Waitangi, offer including financial compensation, cultural recognition, and as well as, land returns. However, the settlement of for Ngatipuru Forest came with a catch. It was tied to a monocultural radiata pine system focused on economic benefits rather than cultural or ecological sustainability. In 2023, a joint venture between Ngatipuru and Hansel, a South Korean company, stopped harvesting due to environmental concerns and regulatory challenges. Following Cyclone Gabrielle, the seventh major weather event, to impact these lands and, of course, the Ngatipuru community. Because these forests are subject to pre 1990 deforestation rules applied at a pre treaty settlement point when the land and forest were still owned by the Crown, any harvested forest must be reforested. While this requirement could help ensure environmental mitigations, it also brings a significant economic and cultural trade off. Strict regulations now mandate retiring large areas of the forest to a permanent category. Without a culturally and ecologically viable permanent forest alternative to generate steady income and provide for future needs, the Maori landowners are left searching for ways to fund the transition and the ongoing management of these vulnerable lands. Locals have also pointed out that forestry slash had been peeling up on beaches for years, ignored until it worsened the cyclone impacts. These challenges show how colonial legacies, restrictive policies, and climate risks create barriers for Maori forestry operations. I will now share the key findings from this research, which critically explore the economic, cultural, systematic, and ecological dimensions of Maori forestry. Economic insights. Maori forestry initiatives like the Lake Taupo Forest Trust showcase significant economic potentials. For example, participation in the emissions trading scheme has generated substantial financial returns. However, there is a critical vulnerability here. Reliance on monoculture plantations exposes these forests to climate risks such as extreme weather events and wildfire. This undermines their long term economic sustainability and, of course, raises this question: can we continue to depend on short term economic gains at the expense of resilience? Cultural dimensions. Monoculture systems don't align well with Maori values, especially Kaitiakitanga, which is all about guardianship of the land. This concept emphasizes the interconnectedness of people and nature, advocating for practices that support biodiversity and resilience. Indigenous knowledge offers a holistic approach to forestry, promoting ecosystems that are both productive and sustainable. Yet, current forestry models largely overlook these cultural principles, leading to a disconnect between economic practices and cultural aspirations. Systematic barriers. Colonial legacies and restrictive regulations remain significant hurdles. For instance, many Maori forestry operations inherited through treaty settlements are bound by systems designed for economic efficiencies, not cultural or ecological sustainability, like Ngatipuru Forest. These systematic barriers limit the ability of Maori forestry to align economic goals with their cultural values. This highlights the importance of decolonizing methodologies which seek to dismantle these structures and create space for inclusive and equitable forestry practices. Ecological challenges. The ecological cost of current forestry practices cannot be ignored. Biodiversity loss and the impact of climate change, such as Cyclone Gabrielle, demonstrate the fragility of monoculture systems. Cyclone Gabrielle alone caused widespread damage, underscoring the urgent need for diversified and resilient forestry systems that can withstand such events. Moving away from monoculture system isn't just an ecological necessity; it's a critical for ensuring the sustainability of forestry operations in the face of changing climate. So, to end my presentation, I want to close with this beautiful image of the native forest New Zealand, hoping that it helps me to express how I believe that insights and decisions of Maori forestry approaches with forest health at the center stands at the intersection of economic opportunity and cultural integrity, offering New Zealand valuable lessons on how to balance sustainability with resilience to address biodiversity loss, climate change, and also cultural and social inequities. We need to evolve beyond colonial era practices and embrace Maori forestry innovation. New Zealand must move toward an economy that values well being in all its forms, not just monetary. Biodiversity isn't a constraint, it's an opportunity to create sustainable resilient system by aligning forestry practices with higher thresholds of sustainability and integrating the wisdom of Maori forestry, we can reimagine value chains and reshape the industry through fostering partnerships, prioritizing resilience, and also respecting indigenous knowledge. New Zealand can lead the way in building forestry systems that honor both people and the planet. Let us seize this opportunity to redefine what it means to thrive in harmony with nature. Kia ora te nahere, kia ora te whenua, kia ora nā uru whakatupu, haumi e, hui e, tae ki e. Ngā mihi nui ki koutou. Thank you for your attention and I welcome your questions and insights.